It is hard to be a collector of comic books in the 2020s. Ever since COVID and the enormous spike in value of collectibles out there, comic books have gotten crazy expensive. So a lot of us out here are experiencing what I call collector's fatigue, which is there are still books we want, but they've gotten so pricey, we're never going to own them. So what do you collect instead? Do you just stop and let the whole enthusiasm and love for collecting, the thrill of the hunt, die? I hope not. Look, I've still got tons of comics in my collection I need to get around to reading. Tons. And I acknowledge there's still a lot of great runs out there I've got to find as well, but there's something different. There's a thrill in finding those key issues that just, there's nothing like it. But there's still ways you can love the hobby. There's still crazy, obscure stuff out there that no one's looking for right now. So it's worthless, but also a little bit hard and fun to track down. Today I want to talk about one of those. This was a comic book that came to me. I found it by total mistake. I was digging through dollar bins for a Black Friday special and happened to find this beauty. Okay, I understand right off the bat you don't get it. Hawkworld? That's a 1991 comic book? Why in the world would I care? Well, really it comes down to, that right there, and that right there, and this right here. What this is DC's very briefly lived Silver Series from 1991. Look it up online, you're not going to find anything. DC Silver Series 1991, what you're going to find is listings for third printings of Armageddon 2001 #1, and no further explanation. There's no checklist of these issues, there's no explanation of how they came to be, but here's why they're a big deal to me, and might be a big deal to you as well. For one thing, growing up in the late 80s and early 90s, I'm sore on special premium collector's edition covers, die-cut covers, polybags, exclusive trading cards, and especially foil covers. Man, we saw a lot of ugly, pointless ones where they charged a lot of extra money on the cover price, and the book inside was still junk. This is a little different. So first of all, the Silver Series seems to be limited only to issues of the Armageddon 2001 crossover from 1991. If you never read it, and you've never heard of it, or know a little bit about it, it was probably, honestly, the best written crossover tie-in event ever for a major Big Two company. It's really, really well written until they screwed up the ending for reasons that aren't worth getting into in this video. Maybe for another day. But the first issue is a brilliant dystopian futuristic story about a character who's not exactly a hero. He's so desperate and angry at the world that he's living in now that he's willing to risk everything, including the safety of his own family, to go back in time to find the hero responsible for creating this horrific future he lives in and change it. It's a great concept. And so each issue of each tie-in issue, each annual that tied into this comic, all of DC's core heroes with their own titles, this character Wave Rider is essentially exploring possible futures of theirs to figure out which one of them becomes Monarch, this villain who creates this futuristic world of 2001 AD that needs to be prevented. It's a really fresh concept. The writing is really, really solid. The art it's Dan Jurgens. It's really, really, really good stuff. I have a soft spot for it. It's one of the few comics I grew up with in the late 80s, early 90s that holds up in hindsight and is actually even better than I remembered it being at the time. But that's not the point. The point is, DC did something really interesting at this time. You see, DC was really hurting for sales at this point. They were losing market to Marvel really, really fast. DC was really, really fighting for survival, or at least relevancy. And Armageddon 2001 was the first crossover event they tried in several years, because everything they'd done after Crisis on Infinite Earths had kind of failed, each one worse than the one before it. But anyway, Armageddon 2001 had some legs on it, and did even better than DC expected. So when these comics started going through multiple printings, someone at DC got an idea to make it even more special. So if you got Armageddon 2001 #1, no big deal. Second printing, no big deal. But third printing is where they created the Silver Series. And the Silver Series is essentially the exact same comic book, with a cover that features a very tasteful inclusion of silver chrome on the title, in the corner box, and also anywhere in the comic where gray would otherwise be shown. It's a really interesting blending of foil and traditional artwork, and it detracts from the original artwork not at all to create something that looks even more special in premium. I'm not usually a fan of foil covers, but these are gorgeous. And they only did it a couple of times. See, Armageddon 2001, they never expected it would go to a third printing, so they celebrated it by making it a silver cover. Batman Annual number 15, Superman Annual number 3, both went to multiple printings. They got silver covers. I thought that was where the story ended when I first found out about these. And it was only until very recently I discovered they also did it with the Justice League Annual number 5. And then just last week, I found this in a dollar bin. Who would have thought that the Hawk World Annual number 2 made it to a second printing and got a Silver Series cover? Very, very cool. As far as I can tell, that's it. Those are the only Silver Series comics that were ever made by DC. I believe they adjusted their sales after the first batch, that none of the other ones went to multiple printings, from what I can tell. But there's so little available online about these guys, it's hard to know for sure. Listen, if you're still watching at this point, that must mean that you think this isn't a terrible concept. You know, you either like Armageddon 2001 or open to reading it, or just think this foil cover idea is a cool one you never heard of before. So here's the fun part. If you look on eBay, these comics are readily available and cheap. It's just that nobody knows anything about them. You can get them probably for only a couple of dollars. You'll pay more in shipping than you pay for the actual value of the comic books right now. And they're just gorgeous, aesthetically beautiful comics to add to your collection. While I'm usually not a foil cover promo kind of guy, let's be honest, comic books are a visual medium and these guys are beautiful. So this is my hint to you to go ahead and check out the full series of DC's Silver Series comics from 1991, which would include Armageddon 2001 number 1, it would include Superman Annual number 3, it would include Batman Annual number 15, it includes Justice League Annual number 5, and Hawk World Annual number 2. To the best of my knowledge, that's the full list of DC's Silver Series comics. You could amass that entire run for a chunk of change right now, but man, it's worth checking out. And hey, if you haven't read Armageddon 2001 or haven't read it in a number of years, it's worth a second reading. The ending got changed at the last second because DC in 1991 had no idea how to respond to fan theories on the internet, which had correctly guessed the surprise ending, who Monarch was really going to be. Captain Atom. So they did a last-minute rewrite. They made it Hank Hall instead. It didn't really work. And then they saw a cash grab, because everybody was reading the comic. It spun out into 2 other limited series that really aren't worth reading. In the end, it was a frustrating conclusion to an otherwise really incredible comic book series. But hey, you really should check them all out. They're dollar bin fodder. They're cheap to get. And this Silver Series is really, really beautiful. Give it a look. So if you know anything more about DC Silver Series that I might be missing, if you know about more comics printed into the Silver Series that I haven't found evidence of, or if you just want to talk Armageddon 2001, premium covers from the 1990s, or anything else that strikes your fancy, please leave a comment below. I'd love to talk to you. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please hit like and subscribe. It helps our channel grow immensely. We greatly appreciate it. Check out our other wealth of videos and features we have on this channel. And if you're really down for more quality conversation with people who really want to get to know you as a person, where it's not anonymous discussions like you might have in a Facebook group or a YouTube comment section, check us out at classiccomics.org, where you can get to be known as a person there and make some real friends that might last you a lifetime. classiccomics.org. Check us out. Thanks so much for your support. Have a great time. Stay weird.